Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. I'm Dan Allen and I'm joined by Amelia, Sciandra, and we've got a very film-tastic episode today, don't we, Amelia?
Oh, film-tastic. That is a great way to describe it.
I'm embarrassed. I just
there was something just a little cheesy about film-tastic. But yes, we do really have a super film-centric episode here, talking to a director of photography, also known as a DP or a DOP or a cinematographer, really a role with lots of names. And actually, I was curious, do you know, Dan, if one of those names is more used in one country or another, or why we have so many different names for this one role?
I heard that cinematography was more of like a European thing, and also maybe sometimes incorporates editing, so it's sort of like the filmy process. But in terms of the role of so it's sort of like the combination of filming and the piecing together of that in the edit. But the term cinematographer is generally used, certainly in the world of film, to be essentially just a synonym for DOP or director of photography.
DP, yeah, great. Well, we are going to be talking to an incredible, originally from Spain, DOP, Beatriz Delgado Mena, who prefers to be called Bea. And she's now based in London and is going to tell us about all of the different things that she does. She DPs on narrative films, short films, feature as well, and then she does commercials. She does fashion, music videos. So she's really kind of got her fingers in a lot of pies, and I think we'll have so much to tell us about.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Bea. How's it going?
Oh, good. Here, happy to be with you guys and excited to be part of this podcast and talk about film, which we all love.
We do. We're big fans.
I can tell. I
feel like you sort of have to be in a way, right? Because it's like filmmaking is such like it's both exciting and challenging sort of every time. There's so many sort of because it can be sort of long days and stuff. I know with camera department, I mean, you guys, I don't know if you're first on set, but you're sort of almost normally one of the last people on set, I would say. I don't know, what's your experience been with that? Because I know set department might turn up earlier, but yeah.
It's interesting. Depends a lot on projects, to be honest. For instance, there is a lot of projects where maybe makeup is quite tricky and there is a pre-call for makeup of half an hour. So makeup people turn up half an hour or 1 hour later. But usually makeup people, obviously it depends on projects. They leave quite early, the same as costume and obviously ADs if they don't have to talk about the following day. Whereas I have the feeling that lighting and camera, no matter what, always depending on even whatever the project is, it will always be leaving last, basically.
Yeah. I always feel bad sometimes because it's not at the end of the day. You guys also have the heaviest stuff. I swear.
Yeah. And then our department sometimes. Our department, if there's big rigs or the locations were very dressed and a lot of furniture as well. They stay till late. But a lot of times our department they just as well leave earlier. Although they have a lot of pre-production to do as well. Our department.
Yes.
So it's just all the departments have, their own challenges and things to go through, but it's true, and I feel that lighting and camera, especially, they always, remain till last.
Yeah. I know, obviously, I mean, we're excited to talk to you about the different sort of areas and how they sort of differ, because I know you've worked in, obviously, fashion, film, commercials, but I wonder sort of if we focus on film to begin with. You mentioned that obviously pre-production and stuff. At what point do you come onto a project? How in advance? I'm sure maybe sometimes you get the call at the in the sort of the 11th hour and stuff, but sort of on a normal project.
I mean, like, I work a lot in narrative, but even in other aspects, like commercial, fashion, music videos, DP is pretty much the first one attaching to a project. So sometimes when there is not even budget or funding, or, like the first thing that a director thinks of is the DP. So there is like producer, writer, director, and then DP. And then later on, like that's when, art, like even production designer comes later. At least on my experience, a lot of times I actually had to recommend amazing production designers out there. So my experience has been always like I was the first one alone, director and producer, and then from there you start like building. And of course, like the amount of work that producer and director have to go through is way bigger than what a DP has to go through. But it's interesting because even though maybe my pre-production is shorter than, slightly shorter than like a director, and the amount of work that a director has to do is very big, still I think that it's interesting for a DP because we are kind of like a witness of the whole process from early stage when everything starts till quite late. At least I do follow up once a project is done. I keep on asking how is the post-production going, how's the edit, the sound, when are we gonna do the grade, how is it going. As well, because directors have told me afterwards that sometimes it's very lonely process for them. Like once, production is this kind of like mental days where everyone works very stressfully together. Like there is a bonding experience and sometimes traumatic experience, but it's like very, very, very fast. And then suddenly when post-production starts, the director kind of like is almost alone. A lot of times even producers kind of like bail. They shouldn't, but it happens, and it's just like they are alone with the editors and sometimes they edit themselves, but and it's interesting.
Like phone calls to you from
so like no, I try to, because I'm aware of that, but as well I'm interested. It's not just my work, but as well like the work of everyone. And in the end, what you want to do is the piece, not just your job, but the piece as a whole to be a good one. So I like to check how is it going. Like a lot of times they send me like first cuts and second cuts to ask me for my opinion, or even to ask me, do you like the sound? What do you think? So it's not just my job finishes the day I the last day of the shoot, but there is like a moral support, like a support in general from a professional point of view, and as well you're involved in the grade, and you just want to help and to the piece to be as good as possible. So obviously I like to be involved, obviously understanding that I'm just the DP. The director is the one making the decisions, of course. But
Has there ever been... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, what's it like seeing that cut for the first time? If you do get to see an early cut, like, is it nerve-wracking? You're like, please don't use that take, please don't use this, or like in your head before you even see it, like you suddenly recall all the shots that maybe didn't go as well and just sort of hoping that they didn't end up in the film, or is it exciting generally?
I mean, it's always exciting because it's always great to see it, but I'm not gonna lie, sometimes there is like disappointment. Because I mean, like, and probably most DPs will tell you, it's not just that, okay, we are focusing our image, but in the moment that you receive a brief, a treatment, a script, whatever, you start building the whole thing in your mind. We all do, I think, right? Like we are filmmakers in the end. We love film, so like you cannot even like help imagining the type of music, sounds, like even location, costume, like it comes to your mind, right? Lighting, everything. So obviously, like pre-production, it's good because you start like nailing down what actually you are creating as a team. And how you can help with your skills and your talent or whatever you have to the process, and how you can support the general vision that you go for as a team. Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of times, when you say it, it's like, oh damn it, it's not as I was thinking, or I thought that they will just do a faster cut or slower, and then obviously you have to understand that things are not as simple or easy as it looks. A lot of times in post-production, in the edit, things cannot be used because of whatever reason. Like there was continuity problem, there was there was like a problem with the light, the actor didn't deliver the line correctly. And in the end of the day, you are telling stories, and I understand that the most important thing is the performance. And I come from an acting background, and I come from directing background, and I do understand that. So I support the director, even though sometimes it's in detriment of my own job or my work as DP, you know.
Yeah, actually, your question was very similar to my question. Was what is the experience of, perhaps even if you don't see a cut? I was just thinking of if you kind of DP a project and then, for whatever reason, you aren't able to give that moral support through post-production, you've moved on to another project, or it wasn't the best experience or whatever. Have you ever then seen the film and been sort of shocked at how it turned out? But you said maybe perhaps disappointed is the main feeling that you feel in the end. Yeah,
like for me, like some people say, no, but it's just a project, you just move on. But like what maybe people forget is that, you know, we are on this because we are passionate about it and we want the best. And for me, it's not even just about my work as DP, but it's about the whole thing. And you want it the best to be the best, right? So it's not as simple as, okay, I move on and I go to the next one. Obviously, there is like some projects where you put more of your heart than in others. Is, you know, you cannot help it, that's what it is. But yeah, like it's interesting because you just have to remind yourself, like, you know, in the end of the day, it's a job and you are passionate about it, you love it, you absolutely love it, and you want it the best. But, you know, it's as well important to learn that a lot of times things are not going to be your way, and it's fine and it's okay, and there is like room for others to be better. And sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like you have a different taste to other people, and it's not wrong or right. It's just different approach, and that's okay. You know, it's just you just learn to be fine with that, and it's like, okay.
Actually, I know a few directors that were DOPs, and I've sort of seen people sort of make that jump a few times, and I feel like it is quite common to see. And I wonder sort of what, in your mind, make someone maybe go down the cinematography route rather than directing to begin with, or what makes people sort of make that jump. And I feel like you're sort of already hinting at, you are sort of visualizing things and imagining the whole film in a way that also obviously the director is doing. Is there sometimes that sort of feeling of like you've got so much control over the image, and then you just have that bursting thing of like, okay, I want to have influence on all these other things as well, like but what I wonder, what makes someone pursue one thing rather than the other, or whether people often do cinematography as sort of a stepping stone, because it's more of a service in a way that you can provide, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, obviously, I cannot speak for others, although I can maybe tell or like guess why people make a decision. But talking about what I did, like for me, like I had no clue. I started wanting to be an actress. I did theater for 13 years since I was very little, and I knew that I wanted to be. And I worked on TV as camera operator. I did journalism. I worked as journalist, and then I was like, oh, but I really want to work in film. And not in film theory or anything. I want to work in film. So when it came to the moment, like, okay, how do I do that? I was like, okay, I'm gonna move to the UK and I'm gonna do a master's degree. It seemed like the easy way to get in. I don't know, like thanks to my mom's support, of course. But yeah, like it was like basically like, what do I do? Do I do directing or do I do cinematography? And I had no clue, because obviously I was coming from acting, but I was as well like in front of the camera as journalist and in the back. So I was like a little bit on everything, and I was like, okay, I really like the camera work and like what I see, the visuals, but maybe with directing I learn more of everything. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do directing, and that's why I decided to do directing. But then so I directed some stuff when during the master's degree. Of course, like I was still studying, so I cannot call myself a director back then. I was just studying, and then like I moved to London. And I was like, okay, like I really like working with camera, and I realized that when I was directing, I was really much like being very specific about lighting and about colors and about movements and about tone and everything that really is the DP's kind of job, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start working in camera, and it's interesting because a lot of people that I know it's been the opposite, right? Like they started as DP and then they went into directing. I think that it's because when you are DPing, you a lot of times you just see you have so much control over something as important as how something looks in terms of the image. During pre-production and production. Not saying that the rest of the departments don't have an influence. Of course, everything is it's a teamwork, and but you are just working so closely to directors that I think that probably after years you develop that kind of like eagerness or hunger for like having more control. Or I'm just guessing what happens to other people.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's like okay, yeah, like maybe that's a natural thing to do for some people. A lot of people tell me that I eventually will direct because of how I am. Some people have offered me to direct. Instead, I have said, like, can I DP it instead? I really like that work between DP and director. I think it's beautiful. Even though sometimes you are frustrated, you might be frustrated or disappointed, but I think that it's a beautiful collaboration. And for now, I'm enjoying to be DP and to focus on my DP career.
Yeah. You mentioned, I mean, being a DP, right? I mean, the name literally is Director of Photography. So, like, you are a team leader in your own team as well. And I wondered sort of what skills, what makes someone a good director of photography and sort of being able to control and command that team. Although I made that sound very coercive and it's like but I mean, that's not necessarily the way you do it, but yeah, I wondered what skills you think are really essential to being that team leader.
Yeah, I'm still working it out. I mean, I've been DPing for almost 9 years now.
Wow.
But still, like every time I turn up on set, it's like, damn, okay, let's do this. how to make these things better and how to make it better, right? And there is always like a room where you just like start reflecting, like, oh damn it, I should have done this in a different way. I should have made this decision earlier or later, or I should have like maybe managed this emotion better, or like there is always this kind of like self-reflection. I think that you have to be able to listen and not have a big ego. Surprisingly, right? Like some people say, oh yeah, DP is like, you just have to have things very, but for me, like about listening and including other people in the conversation, I think is quite important. Not only obviously directing DP, right? But I have no fear to go to my camera team and include them in the conversation and tell them like, guys, will you go for 1/8 Blackmagic Hollywood filter, or will you go for 1/4? And sometimes they have beautiful and brilliant ideas, right? And because they are as well like filmmakers, disregarding whatever role they have on set. And I think that is nice, when you include people in the conversation, they are more motivated. So there is a psychological approach there, right? Like you are not just thinking of lights and camera angles and lenses and filtration and camera movements and tone and emotions. You're as well like thinking of the emotions on set. You are like as well like there's a little bit of politics as it could be. You are a middleman between middle person between the technical crew and production. And sometimes you receive from both sides. It's like, okay, how to manage this? How to kind of like stop the bullets from this side and stop the bullets from this side and kind of like make a middle ground, because you understand both positions, right? It's usually on set or in productions. It's not something like black and white. And a lot of people come to me and it's like, yeah, because camera team or lighting team, they're moody. Or sometimes technical crew is like, yeah, because like, look at production, they do this, like the producer. And I was like, well, okay, chill, guys, chill. There is problems, obviously, always. But for me, the most important thing is when things come from a good heart. If I notice that someone comes from a good place and is trying their best, and sometimes things go wrong, it's like, you know what, like, I mean, yeah, it went badly, but hey, you know, the intention was good, or, you know, like things went wrong because of these factors or whatever. So yeah, DP is not just the creative, artistic, technical thing, but it's as well very human resources managing, you know, like you have to manage your team, you have to motivate them when the clock is kicking and you have to do a certain amount of shots and it's already late. That's the moment where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna read the room, I'm just gonna see what can be done, try to compromise here or there, try to see how the team is feeling, and try to see where the production stands, and try to obviously defend the rights of your team, but as well, like, try to see where you can compromise and where you cannot compromise, and you know, and that's
negotiation. It sounds like there's a lot of negotiation involved in your role.
That assessment has to be happening like every hour, basically, right. And that's something that you just have it in your mind.
Is that time that's sort of that biggest thing? You know, like as time starts ticking, you then have to work out how to cover scenes and shoot scenes in a way that everyone's happy. Is that generally sort of where it boils down to in terms of what is achievable within certain time frames, or is it other things generally?
I think that there is a moment where, like, you just have to make a decision as a DP. It's like, okay, well, there is three options. Pushing production to say, look, we cannot do this. That's it. You have to pay for an extra day, or you have to pay for overtime. Mm-hmm. The second option is abusing your team and go for the perfect lighting and perfect shot, no matter if you go overtime, no matter if it's been long hours, no matter what. And surprisingly, some DPs do this. Apparently quite a lot, according to what teams and crews tell me. And then the third option is compromising. Yeah. And compromising is like, okay, I cannot change the lens, whatever, let's do it. Okay, we cannot do marks for this shot for the focus puller. Okay, I'm gonna close down one stop and, you know, like in the lens of the camera to have more depth of field and the focus can be pulled in a easier way. Or I don't have the perfect lighting. Okay, you know what? Just turn that on, put a little bit of depth, that's it. Whatever, let's go on. Because you have to tell a story, and sometimes there is not an option to film another day, or there's no option to pay overtime, or so you know that in the end of the day, people have to go to post-production, and you have to have the material. If you haven't had the scene, maybe the movie is not complete. Oh, what do we do? You know?
Yeah.
So I'm aware of that. Obviously, it's sad because that means that a lot of times I don't do what should be done. Yeah. And I have to compromise. And I notice that in post-production once the film is finished. But, you know, I have to remind myself that it's not just on you, but on so many aspects and so many, you know, factors.
Absolutely.
I have like a not necessarily a philosophical question, but I'm just curious, as a DOP, you know, we live in a world where unless you're a cinephile and like a big film buff, the average person knows a director, right? They don't know a DOP, and they say, I love this person's movies. And if you really kind of bear down into why they love the movies, they actually really love the cinematography. So they kind of love someone else's work. And I'm just curious how you feel about this kind of, you know, you were talking about how you need to be able to turn your ego off, and obviously you don't seem like an egomaniacal person at all, but how do you kind of deal with that sort of tension between the amount of creative work you do and the creative stamp that you put on a film and kind of being forgotten in the end of it, or how it's known as a director's film rather than a DOP's film. What's your perspective on that?
Well, Amelia, when my films get released in the theaters and my family are able to watch them anywhere, and then my name is missed in the crowd, then I will tell you how I feel. So far, I'm a no one. I'm a nobody. Obviously, I've done quite a few things, but nothing has been like, super famous out there. So, I don't really care if people don't know mine. Like, I know that the people who work in the industry, and my works right now is more for people in the industry. They know who I am. They would, if they like the cinematography, they would check out who is the DP, and they will find me. And for now, it's fine. Maybe in the future, if I ever, make a blockbuster or something like that, and no one knows who I am, then it's like, oh, maybe it's a little bit. But I don't know. But I understand that. I understand the question, and this is something that I've talked a lot of times with fellow filmmakers and DPs, and it's a little bit unfair because when people talk about Wes Anderson, people just talk about Wes Anderson, but Wes Anderson has been working with the same team for so many years. It's not just he and his brilliant and genius mind. Is the production designer, is the DP, they are a team. It's Absolutely. The editor. It's like editors can change everything, and they can just make beautiful things with material and change completely upside down the tone of a film. Music is just such an important thing, and sound, like, people usually don't pay attention to it. And when you see Dune, or when you see Oppenheimer, or when you see Arrival, you just see and you listen to the music, and it's such a powerful thing, and people just don't remember. It's not just the director, it's so many people. And if my mom and my dad, they just remember just directors, good for them. But yeah, it's interesting that just someone receives the merit, but even within departments, I remember a couple of years ago, I was doing the grade of a short film, and the director was very good friends with the colorist, and the director started saying oh yeah, but the colorists have so much weight, and they are amazing, and they should have their own Oscar category, because nowadays colorists and grading is so important, blah, blah, blah. And it should be almost at the same level as DP. And I was like, wait. And I remember my ego there was kind of it's okay. But I see what he means. Obviously, I'm not sure if they should be in the same category as DP, because the responsibility of DPs is so big compared to a colorist that comes on last, although sometimes they come at the beginning as well to create LUTs. But it's true that within a
turd, as I say.
Exactly. But within a department, sometimes I arrive on set and then I am with the Steadicam operator or whatever. It's you have your idea of how you will cover something, but then you ask okay, well, we are doing this and this is the style of this film or this ad or whatever. We have this challenge. How would you solve it? And then they give you a brilliant idea. And then you cannot get merit for that, because it's just a teamwork,
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You mentioned before we started recording that within a year of your journey, you were shooting your second feature film. And I just wondered how you go from doing a master's in directing to being a cinematographer, a DOP, on 2 feature films within a year. What was that like?
Honestly, I think pure luck. And I think that people who are crazy, kind of you go to, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the people who hire me. No, it was okay, so yeah, I had I had a couple of documentaries and a couple short films shot by me, pretty much that, and some fashion videos that I had done with a Canon 5D Mark III back in time. I'm talking about 2004.
That was the classic.
Classic
sort of cheaper film camera for people, right? Because it was a digital SLR, so it was meant for stills originally, but suddenly people were oh my god, it looks like cinema because you can actually change lenses and stuff, and it sort of created this revolution. So you were sort of in that bandwagon.
Yeah, well, for me it was not cheap. I had to ask, borrow money from my sister. My sister just like gave it to me, and I was like, oh, thanks to her. Like probably thanks to her, I'm where I am now. Like, you know, thanks to the fact that she just like bought the camera for me, and then like I started doing like a small fashion thing. So that was the first months of me being in London after I finished my. So just to give you an idea, I finished in September 2013 the master's degree. I moved to London straight away in September 2013, and I started working on catering. Kind of like non-contract, non-hours contract, so I could do whatever I wanted, and I kept on directing. I directed a couple more shorts, small things with someone else.
Those as well, or were you?
No, those ones no. But then I started like. I started doing live modeling. I was like, okay, I need money. I don't know, like catering, live modeling, whatever. But I started like. Yeah, I started like meeting people and I started modeling. I mean, modeling. I'm not a model, you know, but I mean, like I was like, oh, I'm all the time taking pictures of people. Now I want people to take pictures of me. So I started to meet photographers and then like instead of modeling for them, I started going to shoot with them. Because we got along, and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm here modeling, but I'm not really modeling, as you can see. I'm more behind the camera person. And I was like, oh yeah, like let's do something together. So I like the following shoots. I would just go with them, like I would just shoot, and I started creating like small videos, kind of like fashiony small videos. So it was 2015 February. So I'm talking about 4 months later of having finished my master's degree, and I saw this this ad being DP for a feature film. I was like, now I'm gonna apply, whatever. And I applied with no portfolio, and I went to the interview. We started talking, me with the producer and the writer and the director. We started talking about films, and then they contacted me 1 week later, and they said, the job is yours. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. I was like, oh my God, like I have no idea about these big cameras. I've never touched one of these big cameras. I don't even know how to, what? I didn't even have assistant. I just follow the rule of cable, hole, if they match, they have to go together. Hey, it sounds silly, but it worked, you know, like camera, like the designers of cameras are very like clever, and they do like, okay, if there's 2 pins, look for the hole with 2 pins. Okay, this might be it. There is 3 pins. Okay, let's do and hey, it worked. I shot a feature film like this. I bull focused myself. I had an assistant who was my friend from university, who actually is an amazing production designer. So you're talking about this level, all right? Very, very low budget, very like guerrilla mode. It was 17 or 16 days on a row, no day off.
Wow.
No day off, like on a row. I ended up with fever. It was a traumatic experience where I learned a lot. I don't regret at all, because like you just see their resilience, and I turn up on set thinking that I will be the least experienced and professional person, and it was not like that. I realized that I know more than what I thought, or I knew more than what I thought, and I was more proactive and solution problem solver than I thought I was. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about lighting. We were all learning there. So that's the answer to your question, Dan. Like, I just suddenly got the offer, and I took it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just not gonna be afraid. I'm just gonna go for it, and let's see what happens. And 9 years later, I'm here. So,
congratulations. You mentioned the technical side of things and sort of figuring it out as you go. I wonder how much technical knowledge you need as a cinematographer, because I think people certainly that come from maybe the world of photography, they maybe enjoy taking pictures. Film to them maybe seems more scary or imposing, even though I think the principles are very, very similar. But I'm thinking also about lighting and stuff, because you work obviously very closely with the gaffer. That's sort of your other technical collaborator. You've got the DOP on one side and then the head of lighting, the gaffer, on the other. What level of technical knowledge do you need to be a DOP? Obviously, I know that often you're working up as an AC sometimes, so maybe that's where you might end up picking up anyway. But yeah, I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. A lot of years I was struggling and feeling very unself-confident because I didn't have a technical background. I didn't have I had never trained as DP. I had never gone to film school to study cinematography or lighting. So, I was competing with people who were going to NFTS and who were going to Film London School or to Met School or, all these places where, you are trained as cinematographer and you learn. I guess that you're learning in the process, right? Yeah. And I just came there. I was like, okay, I'm there. I'm gonna. I have no idea. I'm gonna do what I can. So a lot of times I was just like feeling like not a failure, but for sure an imposter. Kind of like, what am I doing? Yeah. I just went on, and then like I started working and meeting other DPs, and I share my fears or my struggle, and some beautiful, amazing DPs. They told me what, you don't need to know anything technical. That's why your team is there for. You need to understand that you don't have to know it all. You are just a human being. There is that's why the credits list of a film is so long, right? Because there is so many amazing people giving their knowledge, their skills, their talent, their time, their energy, their efforts to make it happen. And it's not just on you. Obviously, there is two types of DPs. There is the nerdy ones who love learning about codecs and have you learned about this new sensor? Oh, it's amazing. Oh, but if it works with the barrel of the it's just amazing. And I'm there wait, what? What? The image looks pretty. Okay. And I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
And I obviously with years I've gained more and more knowledge, but I'm not a techie person. I've never enjoyed being a techie person. For me, what is more important is how to make it the good lighting, how to make the camera work go along with the emotion and the style that we want to go for. And it's very visual. That's very visual. With your own eyes, you just see if it's good or right, or obviously right or wrong. So obviously it depends on taste and having a good eye for that. Not everyone sees what you see, and I guess that you develop your style with time. But on one side you have camera team. You have the grips and first ACs, the focus pullers, second AC, trainees, video people. You have the ITs. You have all these people who know so much about the camera upside down technical. Yeah. I just go and ask them oh guys, I want this effect. Exactly what is the shutter angle that I should go for? Let's try. And obviously. Or I want this, or I've seen this in a video. Do you know how they managed to do this? And you have to not be scared of asking for advice, and you don't have to know it all. And then, for instance, that's on camera. Obviously you know what you want it to look like and the tone, but a lot of times you don't know how to achieve that, or you might not have the technical answer. So that's why there is other people who know about this, right? And then in lighting it happens the same. It's okay guys, I have this amazing big location. We are in the second floor. I want soft light in this, but then I want this rays of light coming in. I'm gonna put haze inside this space. I want it quite golden, but I think that we need to kind of have a little bit of bright light around. So maybe I'm thinking of a top light. How would you solve this? Do you think that an M18 is good for this? The location is facing south. We might have to fight the sun. Do you think that we should control the sun with blackout and then go in with an M90 or whatever? you guys, what do you reckon? Do you think that this light will help enough, or we need more lights? And you know what you want it to look like. You know what you want, the sense, the feel of the light, and you kind of guess what kind of lamps are gonna give you this light or this light. But in the end of the day, gaffers and sparks, they are these people who a lot of times they are gaffering in low budget or mid budget stuff, and they are sparking or being riggers in big things, and they get to see and they get to learn a lot about tricks that you might not be able to do with the limited budget you have. But maybe once you go to the next step, it's like, that's how they do this, because you had this conversation with the gaffer who was a spark in this other film. So you don't have to know all the answers. Like, you don't have to be, obviously, as much as you like. The more you know, the more you know about the possibilities you have. But the first thing that you need to have is the eye, like the taste, the eye, and then everything else comes afterwards.
I think it's a really beautiful sort of message as well that you're sort of getting at, which is, you don't have to become what you imagine a DOP is. Like, you can absolutely be yourself and your own version of a DOP in a way. Like, there shouldn't be this expectation that I must be X, Y, and Z, when there's a reason that you're good at what you do. The technical side of things will follow inevitably, because you spend enough time with all this equipment and stuff that you need to light scenes. I wondered, with lighting, do you... I know there's that phrase in there that DOP sort of paint with light, and I wondered, do you light a scene... Are you lighting focused first, or you shots first and then working out where the lights need to go for that shot?
Surprisingly, despite not being a lighting person, and despite having had more experience as camera operator on TV and all that stuff, I think that I'm more drawn by lighting, at least now. Maybe years ago, it was different. Maybe years ago, because I was still not understanding lighting as much. I was more comfortable, I deciding if I'm gonna put a dolly here or a track or whatever, on the camera, this and that. But I think that now, for me, it's like, like for instance, last week I was in a shoot where production decided to get an operator. No specific reason. It was like because they had said yes to the operator, and then they realized that they didn't need it, but they didn't want to cancel him. So it's like, okay, let's keep the operator, and then Bea, you can focus in lighting. And I do that. Like, it's like naturally comes to me. It's like, you know what, guys, you sort it out, the camera, because there is so many things to do and to work in lighting that I'm just gonna full on work on lighting. Like, kind of like tell the gaffer what I want, where I want the stuff, and like the intensities of the light or the texture of the light. But yeah, it depends. Sometimes I'm more focused in camera, but it's usually lighting. Camera comes as a second nature to me. Mm-hmm. So, and then camera is something that you share with the director.
Yeah.
Whereas lighting is pretty much just you. Obviously, the gaffer is there to support, and the gaffer can give you ideas, but you are the designer of the lighting, just you.
Yeah.
Whereas camera is more like a conversation with the director. Like, you need to understand that, okay, you might want to do things with a slider or with a track, but if the director comes and tells you like, no, I want this handheld, it's like, okay, let's go for handheld.
What are the best ways of sort of learning lighting? Like, would you recommend just sort of finding a subject and experimenting, or is there like books or videos that you'd recommend? Because I think if you've never lit anything before, it seems like the most alien, crazy thing in the world. But when you do start to learn it, you're like, oh, there's a lot of very similar basic principles at play most of the time. So, yeah, how do you sort of go about building that knowledge outwards, would you recommend?
I wish I could recommend you things, because I will recommend them for myself, because I'm doing homework. I cannot really tell you about content specifically. Obviously, there, like on Instagram, there's like nice accounts like Film Lights or Lighting Film, and there's like different like accounts on Instagram that they kind of like do breakdowns of lighting things, and on YouTube, I'm sure that if you put like lighting scenes or even Aperture like obviously they promote their lights, but a lot of times it's interesting because they kind of like do videos of sets and film sets and how they light things here and there. But the way I've approached lighting over the years is just watching things.
Yeah.
Just watching things, and like sometimes there has been like a couple of times that maybe a gaffer told me, okay, what about doing this with the light? I was like, oh yeah, that actually works. I thought that it will be very sourcey, or it will look very much like there is a light there, but actually on camera it doesn't look sourcey. That's a good trick. And you the more you do, the more you understand. So for me, like basically learning lighting, watch films, watch content, pay attention to what you watch, and film stuff, and then you learn with it. Of course, it seems quite simple. Of course, it's not as simple. Like you might not have the chance to film stuff, so that's why internet with Instagram and these YouTube videos can be there for. Sorry, I'm not more specific, but I'm just talking from my experience.
I think that's really key. I think what you're sort of getting at essentially is just saying that you've got to practice, you've got to do that experience, and try and turn on that analytical brain. Like, don't let nice shots go unanalyzed in a way. If you see something that's really cool, I think it's quite, once you get into the hang of it, you can start to sort of work out exactly where the sources of the lighting are, like where the stronger sources are, the temperature of the lights, whether it's sort of cold or warm, and you can start to piece together how other DOPs have put together those shots. I think there are actually some Instagram pages that do those lighting breakdowns, don't they? They sort of show those sort of like top-down views of exactly how DOPs shot certain shots, which I think like that can be
interesting,
useful. But you can, as you're saying, you can sort of figure it out as you go and as you practice and as you watch movies, which I think is really cool. I wondered as well, I feel like we haven't explored your sort of the difference really between sort of fashion and film world, and I wonder if you can sort of let us know what the process is like, or how different it is, or how similar it is. Obviously, I know you have a lot more time in commercials, or maybe if you could look at the three of those, or sort of what the big differences in experience on sort of those three different types.
Okay, so I think that probably fashion and music videos are the most fun ones in terms of like you have usually a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. You don't have to justify anything. You're just like, okay, it looks cool.
We don't care.
Yeah, whatever. Like purple lights splashing in the back. Why? I don't care. I don't know, because it's beautiful, right? Let's do it. Obviously, fashion depends. Like if you're working with a specific brand and with a specific clients, they say like, no, we want everything like white background, soft light, and that's it. And you don't have the freedom to do other things. But in terms of like generally speaking, you have way more freedom to do cool stuff than maybe commercials and narrative. Then it comes commercials. Commercials, you still have freedom, and you have the toys. That's the beautiful thing, the beauty about commercials. You have freedom and you have like the toys because there is money involved, so you can allow yourself to do more things. And to experiment and like usually have the time. However, in commercials, what happens is like usually there is agencies, there is clients, there is production company, there is like so many layers of decisions that when you're on set, when you and the director are on set, a lot of times you are tight, your hands are tight, you cannot really do anything, and you just have to cope with it and go along and understand that in the end of the day this is a product for a client, and the client decides whether you agree or not. That's it. But the good thing is that you have the choice. And then it comes narrative, which is totally different to the world of fashion music videos and the world of commercials. In narrative, most of the times, at least the narrative level that I'm working in, obviously if in the future I end up doing band 4 and band 3 TV dramas and big Hollywood films, it might be different, the conversation, but for now it hasn't happened. So in the world that I've moved around, which is like low budget, mid budget stuff, more low budget, but there is so many limitations and restrictions. There is limitations in time, there is limitations in budget, in crew, so manpower, women power. There is limitations in the toys and the camera equipment that you have, and then there is the biggest limitation, which is the script.
Yeah.
No matter how much you want to play with the camera and with angles and with lighting, if the story doesn't require it, get over it. It's what it is. You cannot play and say like, yeah, I want to have this kind of like stars appearing in the face of the subject, and suddenly it's like, okay, if they are eating mushrooms and they're like going on a trip, maybe yes, but if it's like a normal family drama, maybe you don't have that space to be that creative in terms of like camera angles and tone and. So the story is the dictator of it all, and that's the main difference, right? However, having said this, it's beautiful, because you're working on a story. You get to cry with the actors. You get to feel that you are telling a story to people, whereas in commercial, in the end, you're like more like looking for an emotion. Very, very fast, very like that's what you're trying to trigger, an emotion to sell a product. Let's not forget that. In fashion, it can be kind of shallow, In the end of the day, it's like, okay, how to make something pretty for these bodies to be pretty. Quite shallow, Like obviously there's like a big culture behind fashion, and I personally love it, but at the same time, you understand that you are going into that kind of like superficial or shallow could be beautiful, but whereas narrative, there is so many limitations, but you get to enjoy the fact that you are telling a story and you might be really relating to it. So all these things like influence and limit or not limit the approach as a DP.
Is your approach to a scene, I imagine budget's a big factor, but does it change your approach on say a film of a really high budget versus a film of a really low budget? Does it change the way you prepare for a scene and the general overall process?
I think that in low budget you have to be more clever about how to get something good with very little resources. And like you have to understand that like you might want this amazing crane shot, but it cannot happen. Look for an alternative, and still trying to find peace and make it work with the tone that you want to have. But it's true, it's challenging, Having said this, you always think like, in low budget films or in low budget shoots, there is so many problems. The time that I jump to the next level is gonna be great. But then you learn and you hear from experiences from people who are like assistants or whatever role in bigger budget stuff, and then you learn about all the pros that you have. It's like, oh my God, it's the same. It's the same
problems, just more money.
This 50 million feature film, they are so unorganized. What happened there? Like, and it happens, and it's interesting, right? So I think that it's in the nature of filmmaking, the problems and the limitations, and you just have to learn how to navigate them, right? And how to kind of like be able to make it work. With whatever it happens, because problems, there are going to be problems everywhere, like in super low budget, in big budget, and I think it's more about experience. If you experience the way you approach things in life, that's maybe what makes it easier to navigate. But sometimes it's not about the budget. It's more about, like there is always something that is going to happen on set. Always. Like I think hardly ever I have been on a set that everything went according to plan, every single thing. Very few times.
That would be a miracle.
We always sort of wrap up our episodes with two questions that we ask every single guest. The first is, what were you doing during your teenage years that turn out to be really useful for what you do now? And then the second one is, what advice would you give to that teenage self?
This is a tough one.
We forgot to prepare you. I'm sorry.
When I was a teenager, back in time, there were no smartphones or anything. So I remember my friend having like a voice recorder with the typical tape inside that you just put and you just record. And we used to be very silly and just like record voices. Like, I don't know, like being so silly. Honestly, like that's what I used to do. So in my case, I didn't play with cameras. We were just performers. So I think that we just liked that kind of feel of creating stuff. And I think that eventually led me to, I was already in the world of like acting, painting, music. It was all there already, like to be able to push me into film industry, where even if you just work in one department, you're in the end like working with amazing collaborators that they are amazing in art, in music, in sound, in so many things. So you are eventually a creator, right? So I think that all those stupid, silly, bad things like that I used to do, and I still do, but I think that eventually they led me to be a DP. There is not just one single thing, right, that leads you to the place you are now. It's just like a combination of so many things. What I will tell my teenage myself, or any teenager, I would say just follow your heart. And I know that this sounds lame. I know it sounds lame. So it's like
it's not lame,
but
it's wonderful.
Like, it's actually true, a lot of people will tell you, but you should study this, you should do this, you should do that, you have to look for a stable job, and it's true that filmmaking is not for everyone. Indeed, I know a lot of people who have stopped and they have left the industry. There is so many challenges involved. Not everyone could live the way we live, with the uncertainty and with the anxiety. That obviously every job has their own challenges, I know, from a factory worker to an office administrator, like each job has their stuff and their problems to go through. But it's true that as filmmakers we have this kind of like weird mixture about ourselves as creators, and then the uncertainty about it happening and making it work. So you just have to be fighting yourself all the time. And I do, there are days that I wake up very nicely, say like, yes, you can do this. No matter if you don't know technical stuff, it's fine. And other days when you doubt yourself more, I think that we all go through those things. And it's about any teenager that might be thinking about getting into the film industry. I would say, like, go for it. If it doesn't work, if it's not for you, you always have time to change and to try something different. But if there is part of you that's like, okay, I'm interested, I'm curious about how it is, just try, just give it a go. Just go to collaborate with people, do some freebies, work as runner in certain things, as assistant. Try it, and then you see how it is, and then you will see, and you can make a decision whether it's for you or not.
Amazing. Leia, this has been so wonderful.
Or come on one of our courses. And
there you go, as well.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience with everyone. Where can people check out your work? Where's the best place?
So they can check my Instagram account, which is beatriz.delgado.dop, or they can just visit my website. If they type on Google Beatriz Delgado Mena, my website is there, my photos are there, everything is there in Google. Not sure if it's scary, but that's it, my face is in there. So that's
Amazing.
it.
Thank you so much. It's been such a treat.
Thank you so much, Bea. Really lovely to have you
guys.
here.
You're amazing. Good luck with the podcast and with everyone who visits this. I hope that is helpful for them. And yeah, they go for it.
I loved what Bea was saying about the whole sort of bringing yourself into it and the technical stuff of like not knowing what to plug in, because we've certainly had students at summer camp that really, like, the moment they pick up a camera, they're so intuitive and know how to frame things, but then you ask, like, do you want to go into cinematography, because you sort of see that sort of talent in them, but then they get worried about the technical side of things. And I think Bea is proof that stuff will come, and you don't have to become a techie. You don't have to become like a super geek on cameras at all, ever. You can still be yourself and true to yourself, and the knowledge that you do need will ultimately end up in your possession just with the more experience you get. And I thought that was sort of super lovely.
Right.
I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, she said, I think it was after we stopped recording, but I wrote it down because I just thought it was such a great thing. She said, you really have to get comfortable with being wrong. Yeah. And I feel like when you are young, and even when you're not young anymore, it's really hard to be. It feels like there's something wrong with you if you're ever wrong. But mistakes are how we learn. And obviously with something like being a DOP, which does involve all of these different elements that she was talking about, you are going to get it wrong. And it's okay if you're wrong, because as she said, if you've got a great team around you, then you've got all these other people's expertise who can say to you, oh, actually, that didn't go the way we wanted it to. What if we try this? What if we try that? And that is the beautiful, that's what we say. That's what we mean at YFA when we say filmmaking is a team sport, that really everybody is involved in helping the film happen, and your abilities could be exactly what's needed to creatively problem solve, even if that's not your role, quote unquote. Even if you're not the DOP, you still have something to give. Being on the camera team, being a gaffer, being a spark, all of that. Yeah,
I think it's that whole leaving your ego at the door, right? It's so important. Nobody is impressed by tyrants that are being, nope, it has to be exactly this, exactly that. Like, no, I don't want your opinion and stuff. Like, no one's impressed by it, ever, really. Because ultimately, what happens is that the rest of your team will just slowly start to whisper, and they'll slowly start to talk to each other and be like, oh, I think that's a really bad decision that they're making and stuff. And if there's no dialogue, and if there's no, like, ever inclusion of your team, then I think I often just see that as, it sometimes comes across more as weakness. But I think there's a difference between not knowing what you want and a refusal to engage with others in the creative process, Like, if a director or a DOP is pulling their hair out and is running around, and I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, that you don't want to see, because you're like, okay, they don't know what they're doing. But if you know what your intention is and what it is that's important for the scene and what it is you want to make the audience feel, that's a jumping off point that then you can involve other people and really start to grow the film in strength and quality. Because ultimately, if it's just you and you block everyone else out, I promise you, the moment you see the footage, you're either going to bury your head in the sand and be like, it's brilliant, and no one will tell me otherwise, which is a lie to yourself. Or alternatively, you're going to suddenly spot loads of things that your team probably spotted on the day, because many minds are always better than one, right?
And what Bea really demonstrated to us in her story, in her journey, is the key elements of communication and collaboration in filmmaking. I know that we sort of maybe beat a dead horse with these things, but ultimately, when I hear her speak, what she is talking about, that negotiating between the different teams, that ability to take somebody's note and go, okay, what do I want to do with that? That ability to go to somebody and say, I want to do, to go to the gaffer and say, this is what I want the lights to do. What do you think? All of that is so essential in making it work. And as she said, that kind of human resource management element of it is sometimes even more important than the artistry. Because if the people are unhappy who are making the film's not going to be that good, because it's going to be everybody, just bearing down to the final minute and, all of that. So I do think that I felt a small amount of vindication listening to her speak. I was like, this is why we, rally on about communication at summer camp and on all our courses, is that it is so key. It's essential to really to doing this.
Yeah, I agree.
In any successful way.
100%. We mean it when we say that filmmaking is a creative team sport. It's just, it's fact. We have a question. Our question is from Charles. Charles wonders, he's in the market to buy his first set of lights. What light should he get? I know, a very appropriate question. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really know lights either, but I know a little bit about lights. Obviously, the ones that we use on our courses are very good. They're sort of these aperture ones. What I would say is if you just get like a small little light, I just realised I'm lifting my hands up to demonstrate how little the light is.
The size of it, but it's an audio medium, so they won't know the size you're doing with your hands.
The size is roughly 15 centimeters by 10 centimeters. That's too small. You're not going to light anything with it. Ideally, what you want is a set of 3 lights, and generally any lights that come in sets of 3 are of a certain size. I'm talking at least sort of 30 centimeters wide, or bigger.
They're sort of almost A4 size, those
absolutely.
Lights. They're almost A4. They're not A4 completely, but they're close.
Yeah, so those sort of lights are strong enough that you can fill a space with them. And having 3 as well will allow you to learn the process of 3-point lighting. So that's having a key light, a fill light, and generally a backlight as well. And if you don't know what those words are, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to allow you to use that as the springboard for your research on YouTube and stuff. And if you can learn to play with those, then you're gonna be absolutely fine. Obviously, you stick them on stands and stuff. You can bounce them off walls, which is really a good technique. But again, do your research. Get yourself a set of 3 lights, not some little small one that's not really going to do anything. Even if you think, it's a cool first light, you really won't be able to light a film with it. Especially if you're using sort of a lower end camera, then you want the images to be, you want to light very brightly. Obviously not overexposed, but you need, the cheaper the camera, generally the worse it is in low light performance, is what I would say. But anything?
And also maybe think about, if you can't afford 3 lights, even just to try to learn 3-point lighting or to practice with it, use a window that has natural light and 2 lamps from your house and just set up small shots in that way to begin to learn the basics of it, maybe even before you buy 3 lights, because natural lighting can do quite a lot for you if you need it to.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. You could light a whole feature with natural light. The sun is your best light source and it's very bright. And I love your suggestion of lamps. You can literally just go and buy slightly stronger bulbs and put them in lamps that are already in your house.
Right.
You do have to watch for flicker. There is an issue that you can sometimes get where the bulb's at a slightly different frequency to the camera. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't fully understand it personally, but if you do research, then you'll be able to work out. Just what I'm saying is beware the flicker, and don't shoot if it's flickering. And there is a solution. Just look into it. There'll be a setting on your camera to sort of compensate, basically. But yeah, great suggestions, Amelia.
We should make like a short horror film called Beware the Flicker, where a young filmmaker discovers that the lighting has been flickering in all the shots. And what is he going to do?
No, even better. In the flicker, he sees the outline of a creature. There's a flicker monster.
Oh, that's scary. That's a true horror. I was just thinking the horror is he discovers none of the footage is usable.
Yeah, that is also horror. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Podcast at youngfilmacademy.co.uk is where you can send us your question and we'll try to answer it on a relevant episode. But thank you. What a treat. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.